February 21, 1994. A man in a Jaguar is pulled over blocks from CIA headquarters. He has no idea this is the end. FBI agents surround the vehicle. He is a 31-year veteran of the CIA. He is also, they now know, a Russian spy. For nearly 9 years, he sold his own country's secrets from inside the one agency built to stop exactly that. Because of him, at least 10 intelligence sources were executed. He was paid more than any spy in American history. He passed 2 official CIA polygraph tests while actively spying. Nobody inside the agency caught him for years. How does a man betray the CIA from inside its own walls and walk free for almost a decade? His name is Aldrich Ames. Born in Wisconsin, 1941. His father worked for the CIA before him. He joins the agency in 1962, starting as a clerk typist. Over 2 decades, he slowly rises through the ranks. He becomes a case officer, fluent in Russian, specializing in recruiting Soviet intelligence officers to work for the West. On paper, his career looks solid. In reality, colleagues describe him as unremarkable, and quietly, deeply in debt. His marriage falls apart. His drinking becomes a quiet concern among co-workers. His finances grow more desperate by the year. In 1985, he marries again to Rosario, a Colombian national he recruited years earlier as a CIA informant. Their combined debts, legal fees, and lifestyle costs spiral fast. He needs money, and he needs it quickly. April 1985. He walks into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., under the guise of a routine professional visit. Inside, he hands over a packet of information and asks for $50,000. It's meant to look harmless. It isn't. It's the first payment of what will become the most damaging espionage relationship in CIA history. 2 months later, in June 1985, he makes his most devastating move and this time, he doesn't hold back. He carries 5 to 7 pounds of classified documents out of CIA headquarters in Langley, unnoticed by security. Inside those documents are the names of more than 10 top-level CIA and FBI sources working inside the Soviet Union. The CIA later calls it the single largest amount of sensitive information ever passed to the KGB in one meeting. In exchange, the Soviets pay him more than $2 million over time hidden through offshore accounts and cash drops. Within months, something starts going terribly wrong for American intelligence operations inside the Soviet Union. One by one, CIA and FBI human sources across the Soviet Union begin disappearing, arrested without warning or explanation. By that fall, the KGB has rolled up nearly every American intelligence asset operating inside Soviet territory. At least 10 of them are executed. Others vanish into Soviet prison systems, never to be heard from again. Inside CIA headquarters, the losses trigger alarm. Something or someone is betraying their most sensitive operations. In October 1986, the CIA quietly forms a small, highly secretive team with one single mission: find the mole. They have almost nothing to go on. Dozens of officers had access to the compromised information. The list is enormous. Meanwhile, Ames is transferred to Rome. He continues meeting his Soviet handlers, late at night, dressed casually to blend in. These meetings often end with heavy drinking. By his own later admission, he sometimes finished half a bottle of vodka. Some of his colleagues in Rome start to notice inconsistencies. He isn't fully reporting his contacts with Soviet officials. A subordinate later tells the FBI she suspected something was wrong the entire time. Nobody follows up on her concerns. In 1986, he's given a routine polygraph test. He passes it completely, despite already being an active Soviet asset. 5 years later, in 1991, he's tested again. He passes that one too. The mole hunt drags on, no closer to an answer. Meanwhile, his lifestyle changes dramatically. A new house, paid entirely in cash. A brand new Jaguar in the driveway, on a government salary. None of it makes financial sense. For years, almost nobody asks the obvious question. If you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe It helps the channel keep telling stories like this one. Now, the walls start closing in. By the early 1990s, the CIA's internal investigation is still stuck. Analysts quietly review years of unexplained financial records. Finally, in May 1993, the CIA and FBI formally open a joint investigation into Aldrich Ames specifically. What follows is a 10-month operation involving intensive physical and electronic surveillance of his every move. Agents search through his household trash night after night, looking for any discarded evidence of contact with Russian intelligence. They tap his home telephone. They monitor his bank accounts. They even trail his car from a small aircraft overhead. In October 1993, investigators finally search his residence directly, searching for documents linking him to Russian intelligence. What they find is damning. Documents, notes, and communications directly tying him to the KGB and its successors. By early 1994, investigators have everything they need. They're simply waiting for the right moment to move. Then they learn something urgent. He's scheduled to fly to Moscow on an official CIA trip within days. If he leaves the country now, he may never return to face justice. The arrest has to happen immediately. On the morning of February 21, 1994, agents move into position outside his Arlington, Virginia home. He steps out of his house, gets into his Jaguar, and begins the short drive towards CIA headquarters, unaware. Blocks from his house, federal vehicles box him in. There is nowhere left for him to go. He's pulled from the car and handcuffed on the pavement. Reports say he cries out, asking what any of this is about. Simultaneously, his wife Rosario is arrested at their home. She had helped manage the money for years. The most damaging mole in CIA history, up to that point, is finally in custody. After nearly 9 years, the news breaks publicly within hours. A CIA officer, spying for Russia, arrested just miles from Langley itself. Investigators combed through everything he touched, trying to fully understand the true scale of 9 years of betrayal. On April 28, 1994, both Aldrich and Rosario Ames plead guilty to espionage-related charges in federal court. He openly admits to conspiring with Soviet and Russian intelligence for 9 straight years. His motive was simple: money. Aldrich Ames is sentenced to life in federal prison, with absolutely no possibility of parole. Rosario Ames receives a considerably lighter sentence, €63 months, for her role in helping manage the money. As part of his plea deal, he agrees to fully cooperate, revealing exactly how each betrayal had unfolded. He describes, in detail, how he identified sources he knew would likely be executed for the intelligence he sold. Nearly all of the money is eventually forfeited, roughly $547,000 handed over to a federal victims assistance fund. But no amount of money forfeited can undo what already happened to the people he betrayed years earlier. The full damage assessment takes years to complete. Analysts tried to trace every operation his betrayal ever touched. At least 10 human sources were executed as a direct result of information he provided to Soviet intelligence. He ultimately revealed the identity of nearly every American intelligence asset operating inside the Soviet Union at the time. For nearly a decade, it remains the single most damaging espionage case in CIA history. That record only changes in 2001. When an FBI agent named Robert Hansen is arrested for a strikingly similar betrayal. Together, their cases force American intelligence to rebuild how it screens, monitors, and trusts its own officers entirely. New internal safeguards are introduced, financial disclosures, deeper reviews, a far more skeptical approach to unexplained wealth. Polygraph testing itself comes under screw. A system that had let a known spy pass, not once, but twice. For years afterward, intelligence agencies studied his case as a cautionary lesson in what internal trust can quietly hide. He spends the following decades in federal prison, first in Indiana, later transferred to a facility in Maryland. He gives occasional interviews from behind bars, insisting his motives were purely financial, never ideological. Rosario Ames is eventually released after serving her reduced sentence, largely disappearing from public life. He, meanwhile, remains in prison for the rest of his life, never once granted the possibility of parole. In January of 2026, more than 3 decades after his arrest, Aldrich Ames dies in federal custody at 84. He never once expresses public remorse for the intelligence officers whose lives ended because of the secrets he sold. To this day, historians still debate exactly how many operations and how many lives his betrayal ultimately touched. Some intelligence historians believe other, still unidentified sources may have also contributed to the CIA's 1985 losses. The full truth behind that catastrophic year may never be completely known, even decades after his conviction. What remains undeniable is this: for almost 9 years, the CIA's own defenses failed against one of its own. 2 polygraphs missed him completely. A decade of unexplained wealth went largely unquestioned by his own colleagues. The most sophisticated intelligence agency in the world was betrayed not by a stranger, but by one of its own. Every safeguard the agency had built assumed loyalty could be measured. His case proved that assumption tragically wrong. Trust, inside an intelligence agency, turned out to be the one vulnerability no amount of technology could fully close. His name is still taught in intelligence training today, a warning built from 9 years nobody managed to stop. Somewhere in classified case files, the full extent of what he compromised may still remain, only partially known. He spent 9 years hiding in plain sight, inside the very agency built to catch spies like him. The most dangerous threat to any secret isn't always an outsider. Sometimes, it's already inside the building. Subscribe for more.